Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I don't think there are any real-life spook threads going on right now. This is for times when you swear you've experienced something truly paranormal. I'll start. B10. Playing hide-and-seek with my friends. After counting to 10, check the room I counted in. Move to my room and hear giggling coming from my closet. Call out that I know someone is in there and open the door. No one is in there. Kind of confused, but brush it off. 6 years later. Friends are still pretty immature and chase each other around. One of them runs out of my brother's room, and a few seconds later the others chase after him. Go to my room because I thought I saw him run that way. Hear giggle from the closet. Yell that I can hear him and tell him to get out. He does not get out. Open closet. Nothing there.
Out on the edge of my hometown, there's just a bunch of abandoned houses in the middle of the country. Now, I live pretty far out in the country anyway, so it's like a 10-minute walk to your neighbor, but these abandoned old houses are all next to one another. So for about 4 to 6 square miles, there's no one around. When my dad was a kid, an extended family lived in these 3 or 4 houses. They were pretty normal. They partied with friends and family around town. They had a lot of forested property, so the parties they threw were huge. Most of the kids were my dad's age, but there was one who was about 10 years younger. The story gets fuzzy here because my dad moved to Vancouver for a few years, when the most interesting shit happened. The family is having a huge party in the summer. People are camped out there for days. It was apparently the thing to do. There's some small Hell's Angel connection there, so some bikers were there, not unwelcome, but they do cause trouble from time to time. Fucking gunshot rings out. The youngest kid in the extended family either dies or takes his own life. He was like 15 at that point. The bikers were accused, as were some other folks. Turns out later he'd gotten his cousin's rifle. After this, the family just sort of moved away. Piecemeal. Only the oldest, the grandparents of the youngest boy, remained by the time my dad came back from Vancouver. He visited them, was friends with the family, got phone numbers and stuff. Not a week after he does, there's an ambulance at the place. Grandpa had been cleaning his gun when it went off. Missed him, broke a window, but blew out his hearing aid. Took him half an hour to find his wife. She'd been outside and caught the bullet meant for him. Wasn't fatal, but Dad says he never forgave himself. She caught pneumonia not long after that, passed away in their bed, and the old man just disappeared. No one found him. At least that's how Dad tells it. Didn't know any of the previous until after this story. To the kids my age, it was just a weird place that made our parents uncomfortable, and the cops didn't visit much. Teenage paradise in essence. I was 14 when this happened, and had only been there twice before. Once as a dare when I was much younger, and the other had been a rather unremarkable party. Get there, they've got a big bonfire. Someone's got a generator or something going because they've got strings of lights up and a decent sound system going. Plenty of booze floating around. Kinda nervous. I wasn't the coolest of kids, but a few of the punkier kids took a liking to me. I get pretty stoned, a little drunk. They helped me set up my tent near their tents. After a little while, I get restless and get up, leaving my new friends behind to explore. A couple of minutes later, I'm in the house itself. It's a fucking disaster. Graffiti scrawled over every surface, ruined or wrecked furniture, broken glass, filth everywhere. Holes in walls, even a shattered stair on the way up. I got a few disgruntled shouts accusing me of perversion, but I flipped them off and headed upstairs. Up there I found more of the same. Destruction, decay. Did find one girl passed out, or near enough, her friend scribbling on the wall in marker. Bored, I moved on to the basement. Or would have, but damn, it was dark as hell and I didn't have a light. Headed back outside instead, grabbed a beer, and looked for my new amigos. When I couldn't find them, my very, very inebriated self decided it was about time to head to bed. I took off in what I thought was the direction of my accommodations. By the time I saw a second house, I realized my mistake and had begun to turn around. A voice halted me. It was a guy around my age, maybe a bit older. He was sitting on some logs near the front, dressed in warmer clothes than most, flannel jacket and boots, but it had gotten kinda cold. I sure wished I was in my sleeping bag, nice and warm. "Sit down, man, what's the rush?" Without really realizing it, I had. He was nice enough, and we chatted for a while, drunk guy to drunk guy in the dark. A smell, a stink even, crept up on me as we talked. The conversation, while rambling, was pleasant enough, about nothing and everything. A high metallic odor had invaded my nostrils and refused to abandon territory. Eventually, the conversation wound down, and I stumbled back the way I'd come, bidding him a good night as I did. When I got to my tent, the punk kids were there, stretched out and sharing joints. They asked where I'd been. When I told them, they laughed and told me to join their circle. I retrieved my sleeping bag and did so. They shot the shit, listened to me ramble about things, mostly about the night sky. A few drinks and a lot more tangents, and I fell asleep under the...
Got alcohol poisoning and broke my leg 2 weeks ago. Friends took me to a hospital. Got my stomach pumped and was hooked up to an intravenous. Spent the night at the hospital. In the hospital bed next to me was this pitiful-looking old woman who was not saying a word to anyone. Super frail looking. Very thin gray hair to the point that she nearly looked bald. Would just lay there in her bed and slowly scan the room, looking like she was close to tears. Red circular sticker on the clipboard hanging off her bed, which I assumed signified bad news but never really found out. At around 10 p.m. that night, I look away from the television to see her on her side, reaching for the electrical cords behind all of the equipment. I was not sure if they were actually life support or just monitoring equipment, but yell out to her and press the personnel request button on the remote they gave me. I was still feeling drunk and on pain meds for my leg, so I was a little bit delirious and yelling at her to stop. She will not listen to me. Soon a male nurse runs into the room and grabs her by her wrist really roughly and forces her back into bed. Does not say anything to her, but briefly, really intently stares at her in a really threatening way. She is crying. She eventually falls asleep, and I do too. At some point in the middle of the night, I wake up with a splitting headache and see the same male nurse in the room, grabbing the woman and violently forcing her into a wheelchair. Cannot see her very well in the dark, but she is silent. Wheels her out of the room, very careful to open and close the door silently. A few minutes later, he comes back and removes her clipboard, sheets, and flowers from the room. She does not come back by the time I am released the next day.
B17. I was still in high school, live in the suburbs. Grandparents live across town, 10-minute drive. One day there is a big windstorm. Power goes out all over town. Leaving the gym when I get a call from Granddad saying to come over and rescue them. Apparently their power went out, their water was not working, and their cars were stuck in the garage. Agree to help like a good grandchild. Drive over there. The street they live on is pitch black as the sun has set now. They live at the end of the street on the other side of a pond, kind of secluded from the rest of the houses. Long driveway. Get out of the car and walk inside. The house is overlooking a river, so its exposure meant the wind was extra strong. Windchimes.mp3. It is pitch black inside except for a candle they lit in the kitchen. Call out to them, no response. But I am not worried because their hearing is shit. Walk towards the back of the house where they like to sit. I can see candlelight from the back room and hear their voices. Hard to hear over loud wind and wind chimes, but it sounds like muttering. Can make out apologies, like sorry. Unintelligible, we are so sorry. Mostly grandma talking. Granddad was quiet. At this point, I should mention Granddad was in early stages of dementia. Not too bad, but he had trouble remembering things correctly. Granddad walks out of the room and looks at me in the darkness and can't tell if he sees me. Stares for a moment, then walks away, does not even acknowledge me. I walked into the room and greeted my grandma. She seemed distant and tired. Granddad eventually walks back in and seems normal again. Candles were lit, so the room was dim, but before we left, I noticed some weird black and white picture on a desk next to a candle. It was some little kid, so young I could not tell if it was a boy or girl, and the picture looked old. Pretty sure they were speaking to the picture. I had been back there a few more times and never saw that picture again.
Exploring a pretty large abandoned hotel in West Virginia with some friends. We are walking through what appeared to be some sort of maintenance hall, pipes and shit all over the place. Walking a line, friend leading the pack, I'm right behind her, and then friends B and C are behind us. Friend AA and I step into a large room, presumably some sort of common area for guests of the hotel. B and C still in the maintenance room, taking pictures with B's camera. I in the common room alone. Suddenly, someone or something bashes a door across the room. Visibly see the door move from the pressure. Shadow under the door moves to the right, and we can hear someone running down the hallway. B and C rush into the room after they hear the commotion. Spooked, we go through the door and explore down the hall in the direction the shadow moved. Only 2 bedrooms, both of which were empty aside from old bed frames. We stand in one of the rooms talking about how spooky it was before returning to the common area and then leaving. Not that spooky, but it's the best real story I have. Not saying it was paranormal, but I certainly don't have an explanation for it.
This story isn't particularly conducive to Greentext, so I'll just type it out. This happened just this past summer, and is the only experience in my life that I would classify as 100% unexplainable / paranormal. Bear with me, as this is the first time I've tried typing this out. This happened to 2 of my friends, and I probably in mid-June or July of 2016. All of us were 19 years old. I'm 20 now. We were hanging out at my friend Nathan's place. It's currently used as an office for his grandfather and uncle, who run an architect firm out of it during the day. The building itself isn't anything spectacularly spooky from the outside. Looks relatively modernized despite being made of brick, but the inside is pretty creepy. Looks almost Victorian-era-esque, lots of old furniture, paintings, mirrors, and for some reason dolls strewn throughout the house. Anyways, Nate had casually mentioned a few times that he'd see shadows moving in the corner of his vision or feel as if someone was there with him when he was actually alone in the house. But I never thought too much into it, as he was a pretty paranoid and anxious person in the first place. One night we decide to go into the guest bedroom, which is by far the darkest and spookiest room in the house, and walk up to the mirror only using a lighter for light, just for shits. So we do that, and as we're staring into the mirror, which is on a wall in front of the foot of a bed, we all simultaneously get a really uneasy feeling, and all decide that we want to GTFO. Nate claims to have seen a shadow at this point on the bed behind us, but I cannot confirm. As we're leaving, our other friend Chris is the last to leave, and as he goes to shut the door, we turn and watch him, as he is obviously trying to slam the door. As he goes to slam the door, it closes about 85% of the way, then stops abruptly. Then Chris yanks the door again and it closes, and he immediately walks into the living room area, looking spooked to shit. Nate and I go, "What?" and ask him, "UTF just happened?" Chris tells us it felt like someone grabbed the door from the other side as he tried to slam it. Chris is literally covered in goosebumps at this point, but we laugh at him. Chris says he has to take a leak and that he doesn't want to close the door 'cause he's spooked. As he goes into that bathroom, which is connected to the bedroom Nate sleeps in, which is connected to the room we are in, Nate and I sneak out of the room solid snake, like closing the door behind us. We take a left and head downstairs, and as we were about 3/4 of the way downstairs, we hear 3 or 4 steps at a dead sprint, and then a loud bang on the door that we just closed, as if someone slammed their hand on the other side of the door. Thinking this was Chris having discovered us missing, we ran down the rest of the stairs and are now in the office area of the house. We then hear the faucet running in the bathroom and hear Chris washing his hands. We realized at this point that it was most definitely not Chris who hit the door, and I feel as though I got punched in the gut. Like literally sheer terror, like the feeling you get going down a roller coaster, except not fun. Nate and I decide to go back up the stairs back to back, holding onto each other's shirts. We make it up into the living room again in one piece and find Chris sitting in the far corner in a chair, just blankly looking forward. We ask him WTF, and he responds with, "Did you guys slam the door on me?" We're like, "WTF? No, what do you mean?" Apparently, while in the bathroom, Chris had the bathroom door slammed on him. Mind you, this was completely separate from the noises we heard. We shit bricks. Meanwhile, Chris's phone suddenly vibrates, and he takes it out to reveal something like 14 new voicemails on his phone, and as he does this, the lamp he's sitting next to starts flickering like crazy. Chris and I nope out and leave Nate to his haunted house. Nothing else much ever happened, except one night we played with a homemade Ouija board and got results. Sorry for the essay.
I work at a science art museum. My job is to walk around and teach visitors about exhibits and help them out. On the floor one day, sitting down at an exhibit, and suddenly see a very old and fat woman, really filthy with dirt and leaves in her hair, rolling around in an electric wheelchair and crying. She wheels away to a part of the museum I am not covering, and it is security's job to deal with stuff like that, not mine, so I forget it. Hours later, manning the outside area, the museum is constructed on a pier over a bay with another co-worker. It is the end of the day, and the museum is fairly empty. She wheels out of the doors from the inside and rolls over to the fence overlooking the bay. Think she's just admiring the view, so ignore it. Suddenly notice she is gripping the fence and desperately pulling herself out of her wheelchair, which is hard, given that her leg seemed completely limp. She's hoisting herself onto the fence. She's trying to jump into the bay. Hear her crying. My coworker runs over to her and helps her back into her wheelchair. She tells him that someone cut her open and filled her with leaves and a bomb. She's crying so hard she can barely talk. She says she has a bomb inside of her and it is going to blow up. We both ran away and radio security to tell them what was happening and give them her location. We are looking through the glass door and watch a security guard come out and talk to her. We fill in a lost visitor report and alert the other people on the floor because clearly she had to have come with someone. Security says that it looks safe and that we should go help with the lost visitor process. A very well-dressed old man is eventually found who says he is her husband. They are reunited and they immediately leave the museum. I was pretty spooked by that.
I don't remember this at all, but apparently this occurred with me. When I was really young, I used to sleep with my mother because I had issues sleeping in a crib and it sort of stuck until I was like 8. But anyways, be me. Around 5 or 6, sleeping next to my mother. Comfy as heck. Bed is the best bed in the house. I was asleep apparently. My mother woke up because she heard someone talking. She woke up to me sitting upright talking to someone at the end of the bed. Nobody was there at all except me talking to air. I was looking at the bottom corner of the bed. She asks me who I am talking to. Tell her I am talking to the man at the end of the bed. There is nobody there. She literally just tells me to lie back down and go to bed. I do what I am told because I am a mommy's boy. No recollection of that time since. She always remembers it. A bit of background on the house was that we were in an old Victorian house, and it was really ancient. I don't recall how old, but it was like the early 1800s, I think. Renovated and done up, of course. In addition to this, I also used to have an imaginary friend called Wilbur. I don't remember Wilbur, nor how I pictured him. I was an only child, so I suspect that had something to do with it, and frankly, I'm scared of somehow conjuring him again, and I check over my shoulder occasionally. But apparently, I used to ask my parents to pay for rides, etc. for him, so that I wouldn't be alone, like a full extra spot. Then one day, I never talked about Wilbur again. I can't even remember that day, or why I stopped talking about Wilbur. It's a peculiar thing, but it's not something I really want to recall. Oh, to add to this, I also wake up a lot with scratches, marks, and minor cuts across my body. This is often, and some nights are lesser than others, but I assume it's me scratching myself. I bite my nails rather shoddily. It's a habit, and I scratch myself too deeply for some reason. But I don't know how I end up with scratches in the night, especially on random places across my body. No recollection. It might be me being dumb and scratching hard during the day then forgetting. Or it might be me generally just being stupid. In addition to the Wilbur story, this occurred after the thing with the man at the end of the bed. Generally, I'm terrified that in some sense this paranormal entity, potential one, or if it was existent, was my friend, and I abandoned him at some point, or somehow lost him. Another creepy and albeit odd thing was that my father's cat, one that was our family cat for an age, and was a homeless one a while before I was born, died beneath me when I was still sleeping with my mother. It died beneath the bed, and I woke up, and yes, it was dead. My father buried it in the backyard within his favorite and best shirt. I really miss the cat, but I find it extremely odd how it would decide to die beneath me and chose to lay to rest there. Of all people, instead of choosing her loved owner and her technical savior from homelessness, it chose me for some odd reason. As a matter of fact, cats seem to gravitate to me slightly. My cat, one we've had for years now, around 12 years if I recall correctly, seems to actually show some odd level of love for me, despite literally agitating my father and agitating my mother, usually by biting them. To me, he's only done that once, and that was when I was around 13 or 14. Whenever I stroke him, he instantly purrs. Call it just affection, but I don't even take care of the cat my parents do. I don't understand why it gravitates to me of all people.
Be me, 10 years ago. 12, hanging out with my best bud. He is spending the night at my house. We are sleeping outside on a trampoline. Have a fire roaring about 10 feet away. After about 3 hours of jumping around until we are exhausted. The sun set about 30 minutes ago, and twilight is almost over. We stock up the fire and hit the sack. I lay down and just stared at the sky for about 10 minutes. Suddenly, it feels like someone threw a concussion grenade onto the trampoline. A bright flash, and then I cannot see anything. Start to feel a hot sensation on the left side of my body. Now it is burning. I can literally feel the flesh burning off my skin. Friend screams at me and pulls me away from the burning sensation. I regained vision after about 3 minutes of rambling to my friend about random shit. I was laying with my left arm and leg on hot coals of the fire. It was completely burnt out, just leaving the coals behind, even though it was roaring just a moment ago. The sun was just starting to rise. 11 hours feel like they just went by in 5 minutes. No idea what happened or how I got so close to the fire. We go inside, get anti-burn cream and bandage wrapped. Second-degree burns. I have to explain to my mom that I have no idea how I got to the fire. Apparently there were 23 UFO sightings that same night. When the burn wounds healed and scarred, you could see another scar running down my left arm that was a straight line. Nothing cut me that night. 3 years later, before my friend goes off to college, he tells me that there were bright lights in the sky before we went to bed. But he did not tell me because he did not want to spook me. Spookiest shit ever. I still have no idea how I managed to crawl off the 4-foot trampoline and onto the fire without waking up.
This happened in December of 2016. Required to make a short film using only one room. Group of 8 friends. 3 of us wanted to do drama. The others wanted to do horror. They won, and we do horror. A shy girl in the group offers an abandoned house that his father was trying to sell. We went to that house for some little sneak peek. Little but useful, we accept. It is time to film, and we are in the house. We decided to film during night because we needed a lot of silence. Shitty microphones that record a lot of background noise. Mid-shooting, we decided to have a break and eat. From the inside, we hear the banging of a door. We think it is somebody outside. There is no one. We are filming in a quiet neighborhood. We finish eating and we take some minutes to rest. Another bang at the door, but from inside of the house. My best friend and I are suspicious. The rest are freaking out, except for the shy girl that gave us the house. She was motionless, still eating. She asked for another plate. We proceed to film the remaining scenes. Actors are doing their thing. We finish shooting. 3 a.m. We cannot sleep because of energy drinks. We smoke some cigs and drink some beers in a circle. A shy girl gets close to me, proceeds to tell everyone that her father could not sell the house because the last tenant poisoned himself in the hallway next to where we were. Guys make fun of her. Dead guy was her boyfriend. Her father did not accept the relationship. Guy went nuts and offed himself. Shy girl says, "Here we go." Guys are still making fun of her. A minute or two pass. There is an eerie scream coming out of the house. Everyone freaked out. Wake up the next day. Shy girl offers us some breakfast. We eat quickly and leave. We never hear about shy girl ever again. I was spooked more about shy girl than her boyfriend's ghost.
B17. Generally a hikikomori sad sack at this time. Have several undiagnosed illnesses. Resign myself to the idea of dying at home despite every other day going like the past ones. Until one morning. Woke up paralyzed. Stare at the clock on the wall in front of me. 8 a.m. Hear two voices whispering to each other in a language I do not understand. No one in the room. Feel the voices turn their attention to me. They speak in English all of a sudden. Are you sure this one is going for good? They asked for it. There is no problem with taking them anyway. They have no future. But they are not really dying yet. They do not impact anything. We can get rid of them. Try to move away and run, but low paralysis. Feel a burning sensation slowly pulse through my chest. Pain grows until it envelops my body, putting me in agony. While this happens, I lose the ability to see anything. Background noises fade away until they sound like they were muffled. Pain starts to leave. Feel arms underneath my back and be gently lifted towards the ceiling. Stop midway through. Begin to feel uneasy after a few seconds. Get thrown back onto the bed like I was hit by an explosion. Feel all the pain again, like my skin is on fire. Hear every damn thing in the room. Eyelids fall slightly open but force myself not to look at the room out of fear. Struggled through all this, but somehow fell unconscious. Woke up with the words borrowed time repeating in my head. Feel aches and pain. Look at the clock. 10 a.m. Still sick to this day. Doctors don't know what the fuck is wrong with me.
Back when I was 14 or 15, I lived in a small town in Florida. This town had nothing at all to do. So I found my entertainment in the form of two friends. My friend Juan, who was kind of the leader of the group, he was very /X, constantly spouting about Federal Emergency Management Agency death camps and the like, as well as being a strong believer of the paranormal. John was a very mature kid for his age, acting as some sort of logic and reasoning behind our actions. He was definitely the brains of the group. Finally, I was the dumb, low-budget muscle, not valued for much aside from genuine friendship, being able to be talked into doing anything, jumped a 14-foot canal once, and being able to take a hit. We were troublemakers, little douchebags who vandalized property and played, sometimes cruel, pranks on people. We did mellow out later, but when you are that young, angry about nothing at all, and with nothing to do, you tend to get into some dumb things. One of these things we like to do was call 911 from a library phone nearby my buddy Juan's house, scream into the phone, and instantly hang up. Guess we did it one time too many because the response time this particular night was instant. As the police car closed in, we bolted from the library, taking a route through a canal and coming to a stop in Juan's house. Juan's family owned two houses right next to each other, one to store things in and the other to actually live in. We took refuge in the house used for storing their junk, peeking out the windows while police crept by. We were fairly entertained, but we had already had a couple run-ins with police officers usually going in our favor. So Juan began to go on about his house being haunted. He told us stories of how he would hear voices from some rooms, how televisions and stuff would turn on their own, and how even their grandma found a shadow person floating over her one night. I was scared. We were currently in the house. It was dark, it was midnight, and he decides to tell us this now. John is not buying it, kind of rolling his eyes the whole time. He begins to argue with Juan, trying to call him out on his bullshit. As the two go on, I cannot help but stare at one of the rooms Juan claimed was haunted, finding the pitch blackness of it incredibly unsettling. Suddenly, John snaps a quick fine and walks into the kitchen. He comes back with a can of Campbell's soup. If there actually is anything in here, I'm sure it will make itself known. He rolls the can onto the floor, watching it roll all the way down the hall and into the darkened room I was staring at. See, if it was not for the fact that this happened not instantly, but rather nearly half a minute later, I would have just chalked it up to the can bumping against a wall, about to relax about it all and start talking again. We all went dead silent as the can comes rolling back out, stopping at our feet. We hear a knock-knock from the room, decide that we had our fun for the night and went home.
Short, and I'm not going to Greentext, but fuck off. I'm visiting my grandma a while back. I was 13 at the time. She lives by herself in the middle of nowhere with only 2 neighbors. Sleeping in the living room because Comfy and I had my Legos out with the TV on. She goes to bed and I decided to as well after a while. I never slept well, so I woke up about 2 hours later and started looking at my phone. Hear Grandma talking. Fuck me, that's weird. Hear my name. Oh? Get up and use super sneak ability. Look into her room and she's laying down looking up and from just talking. I know you see them, but it's okay, I still love you. I'm afraid. Rush back to the living room and cover myself in blankets. Grandma comes out. Anon, are you awake? I don't dare answer. She goes back. Next morning she makes waffles. Not all that scary, but it actually happened, and now she lives in a retirement home and can't remember me because her dementia is so bad.
A story my buddies told me went down last year. B20. Nothing to do on a Saturday night. Decide to grab some friends and go exploring. Know of a bunch of abandoned farms. Edmonton has a shit ton of empty farms. Hop into one of the cars and rip around. Merge onto Highway 15 off from Henday. Highway 15 is always creepy at night. Decide to go down a gravel path. Bumpy as fuck ripshocks.jpg. Pass through a small forest with thin pines. Eventually come out through a clearing. Notice a fire just outside of an empty barn, roughly a football field away. We park the car and walk through corn stalks. Get close enough to see what's going down. See a massive stick pile on fire. Several dudes in a circle cloaked chanting. What in the fuck? MP3. One of my buddies stands up to see better. Almost instantly one of the guys sees him. All the cloaked fuckers notice and sprint. These guys are running straight for us. We panic and run straight back to the car, punch the gas tires, shooting rocks behind us. The cloaked dudes are right behind the car. Car snaps into traction and speeds off. The cloaks chase the car. Once in the forest, they slow down and stop. We keep driving. Friend said they stood and watched. Further down, they disappear into the dark. We go back to my place and cool down. Never go back there ever again.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.